Please keep in mind the men and ladies who paved the way for youth path to your success and fame. John Cleese produced some of the most hilarious minutes in the history of television. However, at his life, at 85, is a different tale. Even though Monty made millions of dollars, Fawlty Towers, and Python, he's surprisingly bad. 3 violent divorces cost him $25 million. His third wife received more cash than he retained. He works now, countless tours in order to stay alive. He dials his Alimony Tours. To them, the humor legend, who spent decades making us laughable to pay for retirement, what became to his fortune. The reality will startle you. October is when John Cleese was born. 27th, 1939, at Weston, a seaside town, Somerset. His childhood residence seaport to be at 27 Locking Road. Typical suburban home, but within it was a household formed by rigid rules and respectability of the middle class. His dad, Cleese, Reginald Francis, has altered the cheese to Clee, a family name choice intended to prevent the taunting thought had such a strange last name. Reginald was an insurance worker, the prudential assurance salesman, moving from door to door with the company, obtaining little weekly premiums. The bills were paid by the employment, but it was meager work that put the household in a less favorable middle class. His mother, Evelyn Muriel Cross, was a homemaker with a great deal of compassion, concerns, social etiquette, and looks. They built a house together where financial concerns were prevalent, and respectability in society was crucial. These initial stresses influenced Cleese's sense of humor in the classroom, the regulations, and the ridiculous daily rituals life in Britain. When he was 12 years old, Cleese was 6 feet tall already. He stood attention due to his exceptional height in every environment. In St. Peter's School of Preparation, his PEPRs dubbed him Beanpole and Skyscraper, and teachers frequently brought him to their attention, just because he was taller than the others, even every day. Tasks became challenging. His clothes needed to be very arranged. He was unable to comfortably fit typical desks. Additionally, at school photos, he appeared to be an adult, inappropriate for kids. Rather than proud, he became self-conscious, slouching in an attempt to reduce his size. The persistent taunting caused wounds, yet it additionally sowed the seeds of the actual comedy that would bring him fame in the future, particularly in his ostentatious gaits and motions on the screen and stage. The bullying he experienced forced him to grow a keen sense of humor. It was only a manner at beginning to live. A shrewd comment or a good joke could change the situation, and even make his harassers chuckle. He practiced facial expressions and lines in front of the mirror in his bedroom until he could deliver them at the ideal moment. His mother was concerned about his rapid speech. May land him in hot water, but his in private father viewed it as a tool for survival. Cleese developed his skills throughout time, in assessing people's emotions and understanding prize when a joke might make a circumstance. What had begun as a safeguard turned into his best asset. 1953, Cleese moved to Clifton College in order to Bristow, an esteemed institution where he concealed his fears under a veneer of accomplishment. His proficiency in Latin was exceptional. English and Greek literature, and evolved into a powerful bowler. In cricket, at last, locating in one instance, his height provided him with he was selected to lead his recitants and joined the elite group. 20 club, for the top students in the school of pupils. To the others, he appeared like the ideal student, intelligent, self-assured, and gifted. Actually, he thought that outsider, fearing that his relatives' humble upbringing would make him stand out from his more affluent peers. He died through the night, committing to memory SMs to ensure he didn't show up. His educators commended his leadership and maturity, not understanding that his confidence and wit were meticulously constructed defenses made from years of hardship. In 1958, Cleese received admission to Cambridge's Downing College to pursue a legal education, despite Pembroke College's being his top pick, due to the fact that so many students who had put their studies on hold were enrolling in national service, and he had to wait 2 years at the same time. Before beginning, in the interim, he went back to his previous preparatory school. As an instructor, when he eventually reached in Cambridge, he targeted the famous Footlights Theatre. He was initially turned down, but he persevered, joining forces with fellow pupil Alan Hutcherson, authored content for their View in 1961. And by 1961, he had become the club's registrar. What started in an effort to soon pursue a legal career showed his actual course. It was present. He got to know Graham Chapman, a collaboration that would transform comedy. The way they wrote was such Cleese would handle the majority of the work, but Chapman remained silent for a while, spans before abruptly providing a concept that frequently changed the sketch. Among the most well-known instances was the drawing of a dead parrot. Originally, Cleese wrote about a toaster that broke, but Chapman recommends swapping it out for a dead, transforming the Norwegian blue parrot into among Monty Python's most enduring fragments. In 1963, the Footlights troupe and Cleese put on a plinth at the Edinburgh Fringe of the festival. The performance was a hit, and subsequently relocated to the West End of London on that year. On July 10th, the title was changed. The name Cambridge Circus was confusing. Some viewers believed it to be a reference Toto, the real place. The Insablon-clad Tim Brooke, a future star. Chris, Bill Audi, David Hatch, and Taylor Graham, Joe Kendall, and Stuart Clark. Admin. New Zealand was visited by the program in the summer of 1964, during which they captured A4 radio stations and a television special shows that were later aired in November-December as well. Not long after, The Soldier Seaport in September, on Broadway, Anthon left Broadway. Their largest expo occurred after they were featured on the show with Ed Sullivan in October 1964, entertaining a sizable American audience. A collection of their songs and sketches George Martin's production had already issued in 1963 by telephone, contributing to their achievement. Later, Cleese acknowledged in his memoirs that when touring Cambridge Circus in Newark, 1964, when he was 24 years old, his virginity. He characterized it as unexpected and somewhat unintentional, moment formed more by accident than by effort. Hugh lined how Weston, his hometown, Supermare was a very asexual person, environment, and that prior to Cambridge, he had little time for romance. Thesa late start showed another aspect Opheme, cautious and socially awkward, more or less active than people thought. Following Police in Cambridge, joined the Frost Report with Graham Chapman, 1965. Though the writing staff was talented, such as Terry Jones, Eric Idle, Tim Brooke, Bill Audi, and Michael Palin-Taylor, Marty Feldman, Barry Cryer, Ronnie Corbett, Ronnie Barker. The organization emerged as a British superpower. Humor. It was April 7, 1966, when Clayperd in the well-known class sketch, standing next to Ronnie Barker, Ronnie Corbett, and their disparate statural representation of the upper, middle, as well as the working classes, standing at 6'5", Cleese represented the affluent class with his imposing appearance. The drawing turned into the British Film Institute's classic, subsequently complementing its ease of use and sharpness. In 1969, British televisionator Lee altered Monty. On October 5, on the BBC, Python's Flying Circus made its debut. Point 1. It wasn't anything at all. People had previously seen, the initial episode had been captured a month before, September 7th, earlier, and it started with total 45 episodes for series. It wasn't just an othercomedy program. It broke apart in the typical manner of drawing and disregarding neat jokes and neat tales. Rather, it streamed like an unplanned torrent of thoughts, leaping from one ridiculous instance to more. The team possessed uncommon creative liberty, and they employed it to evaluate how comedy might go a long way. Later, people contrasted their influence with what the Beatles made music. By the time they attained the Outstanding BAFTA Award, the British contribution to the film industry in 1988, their reputation as revolutionaries in come was unquestionable. Among their most, The Dead Parrot was one of the iconic events. Skit from the full episode, nudity in the front. The joke concerning Amerchant who won't acknowledge that the phrase parrot was dead transcended comedy. It assimilated into British society. Years afterwards, Prime Minister Margaret Heat was cited by Thatcher in a speech. However, she found the joke difficult to understand. It was so well received by audiences that persons would recite the passages and the performers at the live performance, making performance very difficult. However, underneath the laughing, the group in significant difficulties. Chapman, Graham, one of Monty's greatest talents. Python was struggling with alcoholism, worsened over the course of the series. By the John Clay acknowledged in the third season that he was wary of enduring Chapman's drinking. A crisis arose in 1975 while Monty Python was being filmed, and The Holy Grail. Chapman experienced the deadly condition known as delirium tremens, hits heavy drinkers who unexpectedly put an end to it. It typically impacts those who consume approximately half a liter of alcohol, or daily consumption of 7 or 8 pints of beer for 10 years or more. The disease was so bad that Chapman, formerly incompetent mountain climber, but was unable to go beyond the scene of death. Without a duplicate body. Palin Mickle subsequently noted in his journal that Chapman was occasionally too inebriated to perform during college performances, which resulted in disagreements with Clay following shows. Despite Chapman's final realization that he had to quit drinking, the harm was too profound. He was only 48 when he passed away. Numerous characterized him as being openly gay but privately alcoholic, a reminder of the anguish that lies beneath source of his brilliance. Cleese himself had to deal with one more pivotal moment. By the conclusion of the third season, he thought the program was becoming less fresh. He had considered departing following the second series. Nevertheless, while flying to Toronto, he eventually declared to everyone, "I want out." Later, Cleese was described by Eric Idle as the Kindoff, a man who became disinterested faster than others and didn't give a damn about being liked. Clay acknowledged that he only believed Series 3 drawings by Dennis Moore and Cheese Shop was genuinely unique, although the remainder had a rehashed feel. Even though he was given credit for 3 of the 4 stories he had formally retired, there was no denying the change. The earlier Weech season had 13 episodes. However, the after just 6, fourth concluded. Even though the title of the show was abbreviated to just in the credits, Monty Python, signifying the end of a period. Basil Fawlty emerged as eighth most enduring characters in history to show up on TV. He was a lodging establishment proprietor who appeared to despise hospitality, treating visitors more like issuous clients. John Cleese's portrayal of Basil was a sharp-tongued, sarcastic snub, wowished to draw high-class guests to his hotel guests. However, his own rage has always thrown it into disarray. Cleese's performance is so excellent that he took home the British Academy Television Award for Best Entertainment Show in 1980. And Channel 4 conducted a survey in 2001 that placed Basil as the second best television show, greatest character of all time, only defeated by Simpson Homer. Why he was so what was remarkable was how he became commonplace, talk human imperfections into outrageous humor. His tirades, sarcasm, and persistent annoyance made he as both disgusting and interesting. Initially, developing a character still acknowledged throughout the United Kingdom decades after the conclusion of the show. What caused even more flawed are the towers themselves. Its perfectionism was astonishing. The show only lasted 12 episodes before splitting. 1975 and 1979 saw the split into 2 series. Cleese and Connie Booth, his co-star, went through roughly 10 iterations of every to filming, resolved to obtain everything as perfect. They were really devoted to excellence that they turned down the opportunity to produce additional episodes. Despite the show's enormous popularity, this might have brought them great wealth. They were afraid of creating new incidents. Its standard would be ruined for financial gain. That choice appeared odd at that time, particularly given that the 2 series were separated by 4 years, although it was worthwhile. In the year 2000, the British movie Fawlty Towers is an institute that the best British television shows offer ever, demonstrating that their selection for prioritizing quality over quantity offered the program enduring position in history. The Basil Fawlty's inspiration was startling. By itself, Cleese created the persona based on A. Donald Sinclair, a real hotel owner, a former lieutenant commander in the Royal Navy who operated Tox Glen Eagles Hotel. The Monty Python crew, in May 1970, remained there when flying was being filmed. Circus, and the encounter was so awful that it became a comic goldmine. Sinclair's actions were nearly unbelievable. He threw a bus timid once at a visitor who inquired about the next Buswold show. Up. When the suitcase of Eric Idle ticked because to a clock alarm, it was concealed by Sinclair behind a wall and they believed it to be a bomb in the garden. Terry Gilliam was informed that his manners were too American. Used the incorrect hand to hold his fork. Cleese called him the most impolite individual he had ever encountered. Also, a waitress who was employed seemed to them that Sinclair did not wish for his visitors to remain. The majority of Cleese and the Pythons left early. All the booth remained to observe his actions, transforming his rudeness into the creative Basil as flawed. Later, Clay even made use of the identified Donald Sinclair in his 2001 motion picture Race as a tribute to the actual individual in charge at Chaos. Although it lasted for Fawlty, only 12 half-hour episodes were popular all around the world. Its socio-economic class and cultural conflicts and the connection between human ridiculousness with viewers everywhere. The American comedies such as Arrested and The Office development took inspiration from a strictious style and the impact seen on television even now. Its absurd sets and timing influenced how sitcoms are written nowadays, demonstrating that show's audience was significantly more than Britain after almost 50 years. It keeps being honored as one of the greatest comedies ever produced. The work of John Basil Fawlty was not the end of his career. He co-wrote and starred in the 1988 film A Fish Called Wanda is a comedy movie that Beckham, a global triumph. It was disgusting. $188 million at theaters, generating it as the 8th most lucrative movie of that year. Cleese performed the part of Archie Leach. In addition to acting as executive producer and co-writer, the film took him around the world. Acknowledgement. With Kevin Kline taking home the Best Supporting Actor Academy Award and Cleese's own BAFTA Award for Best Performer. Later, the British Film Institute ranked the film as the 39th best 20th century British cinema. Numerous critics view it as the pinnacle of Cleese's filmography, demonstrating his capacity to produce nuanced humor that operated on a worldwide basis. Cleese's complexity of personal life was equal to he had a prosperous career. He got married, Connie Booth, an American actress, in 1968, and they collaborated to produce each episode of Fawlty Towers. Booth was clever. Polly, a trustworthy waitress. While Cleese became Basil, the neurotic, they got divorced. In 1978, but maintained a cordial relationship with later. Cleese acknowledged that there had been their marriage is filled with love. But decades later, tensions increased when Booth claimed that she just discovered Cleese's intentions for a new Fawlty 2023 Towers project from then newspapers instead of him straight. She claimed to be surprised to learn that Cleese will be composing it using Camilla, his daughter, demonstrating how their connection remained complex. Even after all these years, Cleese has acknowledged that in love, he was frequently dismissive, referring to his initial marriage. It almost seemed like something that just had happened to him. This pattern was observed. Him in his subsequent partnerships and comes at a very high price. In 3 divorces, he reportedly lost £25 million. Just his third divorce from he lost over $12 to Alice Faye Eilberger. Million. He freely acknowledged that hadn't comprehend money and couldn't locate its fascinating, which made him susceptible. He depended on others' to manage his money, and occasionally that performed admirably, but in other instances, it ended up being awful. His second union with American actress Barbara from 1981 until 1990. Trentham was in place, although his separation from Connie Booth was treated fairly and without the need for attorneys. His breakup with Trentham was much more expensive. It signaled the start of the financial and legal difficulties that would deteriorate further in his third marriage. When Alice Faye and John Cleese initially meeting 1990, Eilberger was unsure of how she would significantly alter his life. She was residing in a little council at the time London apartment on the 3rd floor with 2 of her former spouse's boys. Despite her lack of wealth at the time, she carried a presence originating from her lengthy vocation in psychotherapy.